What happens on March 3 next year? Well, if you're a rugby league fan, you might know it's when the NRL takes its first ever regular season fixture to the USA. The Brisbane Broncos, Sydney Roosters, South Sydney Rabbitohs and Manly Sea Eagles are all set to appear in Las Vegas. The scheduling is both ambitious and contentious, so will it really help grow the game? Dustin Zerrer runs the popular Rugby League in America podcast, arguably the most consistent form of coverage for the sport in North America. And Dustin also comes from a marketing background. He spoke to the ABC's Robert Bergen, who asked him if the Las Vegas experiment will be a success.
Is it going to be a success? I mean, I think right now we've sold 20,000 tickets. And, if we go back a couple months, a lot of us were saying, well, what does success look like? I said, I'd love to see 34,000 in the stadium, just about half sold. And we're at 20. So I think we're getting there. As far as just the launch itself, there's been, I think, some hiccups, I think from an American's perspective, from a rugby league fans' perspective here in the U.S. There have been some hiccups here and there. That you can always be better. We want to see the game grow exponentially. We want to see this. We want every football fan in America to turn into this match, in March. But as of right now, I think we'll call it. I'll say 78% successful. There's been some things that I think we could have done better. We, as in rugby league, NRL, promoting the game.
And what things are those? You're someone who comes from a marketing background. What do you think they could be doing better?
If we go just based on this past week in the official kickoff, I don't think we had any of the major networks. I know there was maybe one writer for Fox Sports that wrote about it. ESPN didn't cover it. Other things didn't cover it. So that's kind of disappointing, I think, from our standpoint here. We know that a marketing firm was brought in to work with, the NRL in order to kind of help them get a lay of the land and everything. And honestly, there hasn't been one, we've kind of asked around from the podcast, standpoint, and we were not invited out. We were not contacted about it. And I don't think anybody in rugby league in the U.S. was contacted about the launch event. Now, that's not to say that we haven't been in contact with the NRL, as far as the things like the Nines, event and, the combines and things like that, which we have. I have personally, and I know others that have too. The USARL has been in contact with them as well. So we know that happened. But as far as the launch event and getting people involved, there hasn't been any contact with whether it's the marketing firm or the NRL from this standpoint. And so that's been kind of disappointing. Lino was over in Utah, and I think Channel 9 reported that he was at a rugby league, training, and it actually was a rugby union club. The Youth Rugby League, the Utah Youth Rugby League, which is the only youth program in the U.S. They're playing games right now on the weekends, and they were not contacted at all to go. So that was kind of disappointing.
So you're saying they used Spencer Lenu to promote a rugby union clinic rather than a rugby league clinic?
Yes. I mean, and you can go back and look at the film footage that was taken there. They were rucking, they were jackling over the ball and things like that. It wasn't a rugby league clinic. It was a rugby union boys club practicing. There was perfect opportunity to work with Utah Rugby League, and I think they're debating on whether they're going to come out with a statement or not. But it's a disappointing for sure. I think it's a missed opportunity.
This is one of the big questions we see in all the emerging territories for rugby league. Should the name be different? Because already within the first week of promotion, we've seen so much confusion between rugby league and rugby union. And of course, here in Australia, people feel strongly that if you say one, you need to say it correctly. But elsewhere in the world, people don't differentiate. And do you think that there needs to be different marketing or imagery or naming around the sport?
In the U.S., if you say rugby, you're going to get 98% of the people are probably going to go, oh, yeah, that's where you do the scrumming and the line out. They throw the people in the air and stuff like that. A perfect example is the broadcast for the NFL match, for the Raiders and Vikings this past Sunday, where the lads from the NRL were on the broadcast. Right? It was great to have them on there. Unfortunately, it's voted the worst football game in the past 35 years of the NFL. But
that's some achievement.
Oh yeah, it's when the final score is 3-0 in an NFL game, that's pretty sad. But that they're talking about, the big thing was, oh my gosh, they're talking about scrums and, throwing a rugby, having a rugby scrum and then the tush push. And I think, it was a perfect example. It's like maybe they're not the right talking points to differentiate from rugby union. You could have said, well, we don't have, things like the tush push or, whatever it may be. I don't think that this past couple of weeks they have really differentiated. They could have easily, and on the broadcast on Sunday, that the Woodsy could have just said, "Oh yeah, we're just like the NFL, except for we get 6 tackles, you guys get 4 downs. Your play clock's 40 seconds between plays. Ours is about 2. So there's opportunity to kind of separate and be like, oh well, that's not quite the rugby that we have typically seen, and we're referring to rugby union. So maybe there is a need to differentiate a little bit more. I mean, I think in the U.S., most people are just happy that they're talking rugby in general, especially the fans, because at least it gives an opportunity to showcase what rugby league is, and how it is more exciting and more like American gridiron than, rugby union is.
Is Las Vegas the right place to be playing this game? What do you think about the city and the venue?
I mean, well, it's Sin City, man. Everybody knows Sin City. Well, at least some people do. I'm actually not a fan of Las Vegas. I just don't care for it because I'm not a big gambler. But I think for the first go around, Las Vegas is a draw. Right?
That is Dustin Zerrer, marketing and sports expert from the Rugby League in America podcast, speaking with the ABC's Robert Bergen, taking NRL and the Brisbane Broncos to a game in Las Vegas next year, March 3rd. What do you reckon?